Hi, I'm Dean Sage,
And I'm Jack Curvin,
and this is Show Me Your Deck,
a podcast where we explore the intersections of oracles and chakras.
using our original decks to create new insights. So, we've had more technical fuckery today. This time I have no idea where it is. I've been having trouble with my voice, and now there's like a crackle on your voice, so we're trying to do a local copy recording. We haven't tried this since we were prepping for the show like a year ago. So we'll have to see how this goes.
We will get through it. We will survive.
We will overcome. So this is number 10. Number 10.
A milestone.
Yeah, it's exciting. There's been some road to journey. I think we're finding our stride.
I think so. The conversations feel like they flow more naturally for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's just jump into it. Let's see what our context is for today.
All right, let me pull out the tetrahedron. Come here, little tetrahedron. Tetrahedron. Deck number 2. So that's going to be the projections themselves.
Okay.
Excuse me, the professions themselves.
It's all right. I keep messing up the names of my own cards. It's hard to keep it in your head all at the same time.
Well, I've got 4 of the damn things.
Well, yeah, I only have one. What's my excuse?
Okay, so let's find out which card from the professions deck we will be pulling from today. Number 37.
Okay.
We've been starting pretty high up on the readings lately.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I wonder if that's something to do with us or the universe.
This is the intersection of the third eye with the crown chakra.
Did we have this recently?
Maybe from a different deck, but not this particular card.
Not this particular one. Okay, go ahead.
Right. So this is, I profess that I see that I want to see more. I profess that I see that I want to see more.
Okay. All right.
Expansive curiosity.
Our context is something to do with sight beyond sight, something seeing into the ethereal, the beyond.
And constant learning.
Constant learning. Your third eye is learning more than other things, right?
Learning, awareness, realization, perception, sight.
Okay.
The way I see and I know are interconnected in many languages. For example, if you say something that's interesting to me, I might say, I see, when what I actually mean is, I understand.
Yeah. How many languages is that common to?
We do it in French. You can say it in Spanish. You can do it in Italian.
So it's Romance. It's definitely Romance. So Latin did it. I can't remember if Greek had something like that. I don't think I studied it as closely.
But if you say something interesting in French, I can say, "Oh, je vois, je vois, je vois."
I see. Interesting.
Beo.
So
Beo.
there's an understanding linked to a deep understanding because the crown chakra is sort of connection to whatever else is out there.
Yes, because once you get from the heart chakra up, it's all about connecting outward at higher and higher planes.
So we've got a connection of understanding to the ununderstandable. So a knowledge beyond knowledge, learning beyond learning. And very high place to start today.
Very high. We'll try not to fall off the cliff.
Yes. I'm curious, what are the colors here for your deck?
This would be a dark blue being touched by purple.
Okay, that's pretty.
It is pretty. It's really beautiful. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can actually see the card right now.
Yes. We do encourage you, by the way, if you haven't checked out the YouTube, at least go skim through the episode because you get to see all the cards, which is kind of fun because
they're so pretty.
We are, speaking of IC, we are both very visual artists. Jack from dance, even more particular than me, which is sort of photography and light and things like that. So we took some very calculated time to create the decks. But you chose the colors before we even started this. How did you choose the colors?
It's a pretty universal standard with the chakra system to go through the prismatic order: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, white, or red, orange, yellow, green, aqua, blue, purple. That's the one I opted for because I didn't want to deal with white in print. Mm-hmm. And plus, I just really love aqua.
I did something similar. I have more of an indigo for the throat chakra, and then it goes to sort of a purple for the third eye, and then like more of a magenta for the crown. Because again, I have one card that's neutral tones, and that's the Celestial card, which actually is the shadow card from the last reading. I didn't look before we ended the episode, and then as I was putting the cards away, I noticed, oh, the Celestial, which has not come up in a reading yet, but the Celestial in my deck is the Fool in the Tarot, who is supposedly the character that goes on this whole journey, and for me, it's from the root chakra all the way to the crown chakra.
Nice. Well, we're starting near the tippy top.
Yes. Before we move on, how did you actually choose the exact hue, though? Because those colors have varied hues in them. Did you just sort of pick what felt right, or did you have any kind of science to it? I know sometimes you have like restrictions that you put upon yourself when you're creating.
With this, I trusted the graphic designer. I told her that I did not want them to be oversaturated colors. Like, I did not want the red of a stop sign. I did not want the orange of a traffic cone. I did not want the purple of new grape soda. So find me a palette where the colors can all sit beside each other without one overwhelming the other. Mm-hmm. And I wanted the pigments to... I did not want it to be overstimulating. So the parameters I gave the graphic designer were to make sure they all fell within the same, what would you even call that, chromatic range, chromatic family, so that they had a similar brilliance value and yet could be distinguishable between each other. I didn't want any of them to be so dull that they could have been mistaken for gray or brown. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's hue, saturation, and lightness, I think, is one of the ways that we do it. That's usually the way I pick my colors, because it has a box with black and white on the left and complete saturation on the right top corner and completely unsaturated on the bottom right corner. And then the color, all the hues that you can choose from are sort of in the middle of the box. So you can kind of go darker, which makes the tone more rich. You can go lighter, which makes the tone a little bit more pastel. And, I kind of just sort of moved the color around until something spoke to me. So it's interesting. I think that's an interesting approach between our two decks. For me, it was very feel my way through it. And I think for you, there was a lot of intention behind what you were choosing. And in this case, the intention of the graphic designer as well.
Yeah, because I knew that my concept would not find its full maturity if I created it. So I wanted a professional. When I don't know how to fix my car, I go to a mechanic. Mm-hmm. I know what I wanted from my book and my decks. I didn't know how to do it. So there's a certain amount of trust that you have to have with collaboration, and she delivered an absolutely stunning product to me based on everything I told her to do, and then she made it even better. So, well,
collaboration is so much of what goes on in your decks, and I think this card in particular, like, I think we've come to the setting collaboration between yourself and the universe, or yourself and others. To some people, that's the same thing. Mm-hmm. The universe is others. To some people, that's something greater than others. The third eye is interesting because it in kind of the regular chakra system is not really tied to an element like yours. Like yours have elements. The third eye is sort of a connection to being able to see others as not separate from yourself. So there's sort of a knowledge there of we are the same. That's a little bit more Buddhist. So I tend to kind of drop into Buddhism and Zen when I'm kind of thinking of chakras. So there's a sense here of collaboration, but collaboration with that really high frequency, that high vibration, as people like to call it.
The highest, yeah.
Well,
yeah, so what do you want to do next?
I think we're going to pull from my deck.
All right.
Because I would like a little grounding. Let's see if she provides us grounding. We're going to find out here.
She'll give us what she gives us.
She did. She absolutely did.
She said, I don't care what you want.
So I pulled the Source of Waves, which is also the Queen of Cups.
Okay. That
Become the deep water from which all waves flow.
Let's do it again.
Become the deep water from which all waves flow.
Well, we were just dealing with water in mind. So this, yet again, our decks are keeping us way up high.
Well, this one's done in the second chakra. So this is the sacral chakra. This is that sort of rolling surface
that's
of water.
right. Your elemental system's so different from mine.
Yes.
So we did get down deep.
We did get down, yeah. But we didn't get to firm ground. We got to deep water.
Okay.
Which, as it gets deeper, has more of a firmness. So as it gets down into the depths, it's pretty dense. It's pretty
Heavy.
thick. But this card is talking about allowing yourself to realize that you're the source of your emotions. So as you travel through the second chakra, at first you're sort of tossed about by the waves, right? The way that we feel tossed about by emotions, we're constantly back and forth, up and down, tidal waves, getting lost on the beach, evaporating in the sun. All of these things are kind of stuff that tosses us around. But as we sort of sink down into the waves, we realize that there's a source of the water. It's a deep, deep source. And to really kind of overcome or integrate this chakra into your life, you have to realize that you are the source of your emotions. They stem from you. You control them in as much as they are a piece of you, and how you integrate them is what you control. You will still feel things. You'll feel deep things. We're chemically triggered beings. We have an impetus or some sort of input into our system, and then there is an automatic reaction that takes place. Our brains literally form in a way to react to similar situations because that's what kept our ancestors alive. So the rustling in the bush automatically triggers a flight response to climb a tree because that's what happened. That's how we survived, from being preyed upon by other predators. And so a lot of these things are so ingrained and they cause emotional responses because of how deep they are. So these are actually sublogic sort of thoughts and feelings that we're having. And they're that reaction. But we, as the more enlightened being, like we were up in the crown and the third eye, as a more enlightened being, we're able to corral those reactions and sort of understand that they are stemming from us, they are part of us, but they don't control us.
The body speaks the language of hormones.
Yes.
And what's interesting about that is on some level, at the cellular level, you don't have choice, which is deep down what you're talking about. However, when you come back up way up high where we started, understanding that it's happening then gives you some choice. To your point, raising up above the base level.
So immediately we have a reminder or a message to not let emotions seep their way into this situation that we're going to be outlining on this episode. So there is deep connection, deep understanding to the universe, to the other. There is something to be gained knowledge-wise or experience-wise. And this is sort of a message to just keep centered in yourself, because that's the hardest part about, I think, the second chakra, is because it's so wobbly, because it's in that part of the body that is so wobbly, right? Our hips and our flexors, and we're constantly sort of orientating that. The core, right, is stabilizing us in our movement so that we're able to walk on two legs, which is unique among animals in our world, possibly in the universe. We don't know. There's such a wobbliness to it. It's not the firm ground of the root chakra. It's that water that sort of rolls over the surface of it. So reminder to understand that that's a part of you, that you're always going to be an emotional creature when you're interacting with these higher ideals, but be able to not suppress, not necessarily control, but understand and feel that as a column of weight rather than a column of storm or explosion.
Yeah, I'm hearing it as a reminder that when situations are emotional, how do you remain curious through the emotion so that the emotion itself doesn't tilt the entire response to whatever is happening?
Mm-hmm. There is emotion in deep connection too. There is that sense of awe, wonder that comes from spiritual experiences. So as much as we are drops in a cosmic ocean, let's say, or part of a great spirit, we are still ourselves in this moment, at least when you're listening to me. If you've reached nirvana and you're listening to us, interesting. I'd like to know more about that.
Definitely comment.
Yeah, like definitely would like to know more about that, because that's not how I imagine nirvana would be experienced. But for the most of us, I think, we're still here as a physical being, and as much as we can connect to what is outside of ourselves, we are still experiencing it through ourselves. And so I think that's also the other thing, is that everything that we're going to experience, everything that you're going to learn from this moment is always filtered through yourself and your emotions. And again, remembering that you're the source of them and they're not happening to you from the outside, that they're coming from within.
Yep. That's that reminder. You always have to remember that you are the filter. How you're perceiving this is not necessarily what is. Keep the eye open. Keep your third eye open.
Allow it to wash over you, I think, in this case, and allow yourself to pull the knowledge in, but not get too caught up in it.
I'm feeling eager to roll the dice.
I feel eager to roll the dice as well.
Let me figure out which deck first. We're going to use deck number 3, your favorite.
Yay.
And we're going to be, that's the intersection deck, the most abstract of the 4.
It's only my favorite because we spent so much fun time.
It's so beautiful.
Placing the mandalas and getting the gradients to work correctly.
Well, we're going with number 31. 31. Oh, wow. Aqua and purple now. No, excuse me. Aqua and blue. I misread that. It's aqua and blue. So this is how Vishuddha is being influenced by Ajna, the third eye. So how I say is being influenced by I see. So the idea that the way you communicate or express yourself is influenced by the information and awareness that you have.
So you have a deep connection to the universe, which is the stage for this. You've got a reminder to sink down inside your physical being in order to be open to...
Oh, I misspoke, David.
Oh, no?
I misspoke. It is purple. I was right the first time.
Yes.
So rewind. I was correct the first time. It's how I say is affected by your sense of morality and connection to the universe and purpose.
So we're crown and throat.
We're crowned. We're crowned again. I'm so sorry. The way the aqua fades down into the purple. There's this whole blue area here, and I looked at it as blue. It's not. It's straight up purple. This is crown. My apologies. So let's rewind that. Aqua being influenced by purple, how what you say and how you communicate is affected by your sense of morality or purpose or connection to the universe. So staying way up high. I mean, we only came down one step from my first card to this one.
So from the sort of stableness of deep water that you're operating from, realizing that, water is also affected, right? It's a very receptive substance. It feels vibrations, it transmits them. Actually, I didn't know this. It transmits sound like thousands of miles sometimes.
Oh yeah. Water is way better at transmitting sound than air.
I knew that, but until I listened to a podcast about how marine life is affected by the noises, the pollution of noises that humans are causing. Yeah. I had no idea they can't
traveled
so far.
They can't find each other to mate. They get migraine headaches, their eardrums rupture. It's all sorts of stuff going on. It's a loud, loud world. And to that point, sound can travel even better through solids. So, for example, when there's a rainstorm 100 miles away, elephants experiencing a drought can start walking towards the rain to go get water because they can hear through their feet, as it were. They can detect those sounds of the thunder and rain hitting the earth, and then they migrate towards the rain.
So you're a receptive liquid. You're a column of receptive liquid, right? Your whole body is a column of water that everything is suspended in, that is you, especially your brain. I mean, that's why traumatic brain injuries are what they are, is there's this reverberation that happens within your skull when you're hit. So we've got that sort of standpoint, right? And then we move into I say versus I understand.
Yeah, exactly.
So which two elements? So we forgot to talk about the elements. So what are the three elements in play here? The crown, the third eye, and the throat. What elements are those?
So it's called akasha, but it's effectively ether for the crown. And then water for third eye and air for Vishuddha. So nothing with any solid substance.
Right. We have three forms of
fluff. 3 forms of fluff.
We've got the
energetic fluff, wet fluff, and fluffy fluff. Puffy fluff.
So we've got the cosmic ocean, we've got the ether, the interconnectedness, dark matter, dark energy, something beyond.
I was just watching a documentary with Morgan Freeman as the narrator, so obviously it's brilliant. It's called Our Universe, I think. And I was just watching the 3rd episode, and it is focusing very specifically on this family of bears and how the formation of our solar system 4.6 billion years ago and all these sequences of events and how it all filters down into this mama bear being able to direct her cubs to this river to feed them salmon in time for them to hibernate. And a significant portion of that episode was focusing on that primordial swamp of stuff and how much can come out of this blanket of dust. You just have a little bit of a gravitational perturbation and it starts swirling enough for the sun to collapse on itself, and then all these other shockwaves move out, and even in this place where there wasn't anything solid per se, it was all various forms of non-rigidity. We get this rocky world with a rocky moon, and at the center of them, well, at the center of the earth anyway, you've still got liquid. So even though we're up here in this gaseous, free-flowing place with these particular elementals, they still come together to make something solid. They are the ingredients of reality.
Mm-hmm. So there's something to project into the universe, I think, is where we're going with this. The message, the reminder, is that from a stable column, because of your connection with that greater other, you have something to learn, but you also have something to say. Mm-hmm. You have a truth to tell, some sort of connection. And I still collaboration still is ringing in my ears when we talked about it earlier. So I feel like all of this is in collaboration with others. That's the connection to the universe. I think it's a very physical, real connection versus maybe more of a spiritual understanding moment. Mm-hmm. That in this case, it's a very real connection to others, a very real connection with the physicalness of the others around you.
Well, these 3 top chakras are all about outward connection, whereas the 3 lower chakras are about your internal connection. The heart is the intersection between them, but this is all communication, learning, sharing, evolving, all of it. That's what this entire collection of elementals is right now from these 2 cards in my deck. And although your water flows from a lower place, it's a deeper ocean, it's still a fluid element.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
thinking in terms of the way fluidity yields solidification. So, and just practically speaking, let's say that you feel like you're in a slippery place, in an unstable place. Okay, but you can still take that and generate something stable from it. And it might require communicating with others or learning from others or redefining or better understanding your sense of purpose. But you can generate a solid life out of what seems like sloppy chaos. You can find your footing if you remember that you're the source of all this, to your point.
Mm-hmm. There's a sense of learning from, so there's a receptive nature to what's happening, but then there's also an outward force of saying, and I'm hearing almost restating. I'm hearing almost echoing, like creating a positive loop. So like when two waves match each other, they increase their intensity. Mm-hmm. So when you are saying what others are saying, when truth is being spoken, it resonates and increases itself. So the more people that speak the truth, the more the louder, the more impactful that truth wave becomes. Mm-hmm. And I'm seeing the ocean. I'm seeing these, droplets of the ocean sort of leaping from the water, emitting energy, and then that energy is sort of washing over the ocean, and it's drawing others to it, and others are contributing to it. It's like the wave at a stadium, it just continues around, it circles itself, but it becomes more intense and more energetic as it goes.
That's a really beautiful image. And it's also a fluid movement performed by solid bodies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's the irony to this message, this reminder, this understanding, is that as much as we are columns of water, we also are grounded. Gravity and the interaction of atoms focuses us down into the ground and is constantly there to anchor us. And so just like the column of water, the deep water of the ocean, it still rests upon a physical surface. So as much as we are able to take in and resonate with others and feel the deep reverberations of truth within ourselves, we still have a physicalness, an anchor point. And that's why, like, this cosmic ocean, you can leap into it, right? You can leave the earth momentarily, but you're always brought back down. And I think that's sort of I don't know if it's frustration. I think it's sort of the dichotomy that we find ourselves in, is that we for moments can leap into the ether, into the knowledge of more, the greater understanding. We can leap into it, but we always come back down. And like you said, we're always focused on our physical existence.
Well, we have to come back down. We're not built for infinity. We can't handle that. A glimpse of it's all we need.
Mm-hmm. I like that, a glimpse of it. So it's like for a moment you can see the ocean,
sure,
as the ocean instead of as drops, as individual pieces.
Although our beautiful brains can imagine what eternity might be like, to physically experience it would destroy us. So a glimpse is fine. Don't be greedy. You'll get there soon enough.
Truth. All right, I'm getting another one of mine here. Oh, so we are staying with the second chakra. This is the first ripple.
Okay.
The Ace of Waves.
Okay.
So this is the beginning, the very first perturbation of your emotions where you feel something. So that first drop and then that first echoing ripple, which is exactly what we've been talking about. So you keep going high, I keep going low.
Well, we gotta find some way to stay balanced. This works fine.
So this card is the beginnings the beginnings of emotion, the beginnings of love, the beginnings of deeper emotion, of movement. So when this is after you've crossed through the first chakra and found balance in it, and found balance between safety and fear, now you're ready to sort of swim above that safe surface, above that rocky planet. And this is that first ripple, that first reverberation through the water. So if you can imagine a perfectly still water, and then that very first drop and the movement and the ripples that it sends out. And if you've been able to watch a video where this happens in a tank, the reflections of that ripple, they'll hit the wall of the tank and then they'll reflect back into the liquid. And then they'll cause more interactions and more interactions and more interactions. And it gets so small that we can't see it anymore, but the atoms are still moving and interacting, and the waves are canceling each other out or they're adding to each other. That one drop, that one ripple has a forever effect almost.
Well, it's interesting because that first drop, in me, the image that I get in my mind is curiosity. And with the waves reflecting back on to each other off of the sides of the tank, as it were, that I know that your cards are trying to keep us grounded, but it's just not the way my system works. I'm sorry. And so what I'm seeing in your beautiful image is the first moment of curiosity, which would be third eye, and water for me as well, but way up here. And the reflecting back and forth off of ripples and the sides of the tank, that's conversation, that's I say, and looking at how it all is interconnected together forever, that's still purple, that's still ether. So it's all of that expressed in this physical form of water, which it has this very quasi-solid quality in your system that keeps it all from just dissolving and washing away. Because what's interesting about our two elemental systems is how they overlap in this way that creates this very specific conversation that really no other two podcasters could have, because we've created our own decks. And so the observations we're going to make are going to be quite different from other decks. It's just by their very nature. So here you have this tangible sense of what water is and how you can float on it and be safe on it, or experience the waves of it and whatnot. But in my system, in this conversation, that's always going to come back to the way drops of water collect on top of each other like little points of data and become this pool of knowledge. So I see what your deck is trying to do. I hear her. I'm here for her. I love her. But she's not going to have her way completely when you got water on both ends at the same time through the whole reading.
Well, water is also really the basis of consciousness.
Yeah.
I'm going to stretch here a little bit scientifically, so scientists, feel free to have your way in the comments. But the front of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, is, to me, where most of consciousness happens. And the reason that I say this is because I am ADD, and I have the connection less system. I don't focus. I don't have enough dopamine in the front of my brain to help me focus. And so I have a hard time being present and conscious of moments. And that all works off of water. It's all about the transmission of these small electrical signals that are caused by these chemical reactions within the brain. And it all kind of exists there. So it's the third eye is literally suspended in water. The brain is suspended in water, and consciousness is happening right there in the front. Yes, the whole brain is active and we don't understand it completely, and I'm oversimplifying in some cases, but to me that intersection of consciousness is really happening in that front of the brain between stimuli and processing of stimuli. It's happening up there, and it's why Tourette's exists. It's a similar pathway in the brain, and it's why ADD people have echolalia. they just repeat sounds that they hear because there's no filter between impetus and reaction. And
What's so interesting about this reading with water saturating everything here is that water is so, just useful to biology,
I mean,
to industry, to everything.
If water wasn't water, so if water wasn't one of the few things that gets less dense as it becomes solid, there would be no life because everything would have frozen in the water. But ice forms on the top so that deep water exists below it. So the deepest water is actually not the densest, or is not the solid water. The solid water floats on top of the lightest water.
Water is so endlessly fascinating. It can break visible light down into colors. It can dissolve all sorts of substances. It has at least 3 forms we can experience with just our basic human bodies. It just does everything. It can be everything everywhere all at once. I love water. I'm a sextuple Cancer, by the way, so I'm water. Everything is water. Sun, moon, rising, Mercury, Venus, what is the other one? Jupiter, something. All Cancer, all water. So I'm loving this reading and how it's forcing us to look at the duality of knowledge and emotion and the way they flow constantly in and out of each other and influence each other, almost to a point where can you even separate them anymore? Because what you feel and what you know, how do they not affect each other? How are they not 2 sides of the same coin?
I mean, they are. It is the eternal duality. And that's why, like I said, if you've reached nirvana and you're listening to the podcast, I have so many questions.
Oh, I do too.
But there is that dichotomy that you just cannot escape. Like you talked about, like you can only glimpse eternity.
Yeah.
There's only so much that we can take in. And we feel oftentimes the connection before we know or see the connection. Mm-hmm. So those deep reverberations within us, the deep water reverberating, is the emanations of beyond. And sometimes you have to know it at a deep level, not at a conscious level. So not really happening in the front of the brain, but they've done some magnetic work. And if they stimulate a certain part of your brain, you feel like the aura of an angel or the aura of God. Or it depends on your system, right? It depends on your belief system. But if they stimulate a certain part of your brain, you literally feel a connection to something greater than yourself. And yet at the same time, with your card in play, the source of waves, was it? Realizing that it all cycles back around and comes from you. It's an expression of you, but it's coming from you and comes back into you. There's I don't even know if I want to say it. I'll just say it because I find it interesting, but I don't know that it has any scientific basis. But there's some ideas based on that research that they did with stimulating. It was specifically, I believe, the right side of the brain. They were stimulating near the back. And there was this idea that like Homer and some of the older poets would speak of God's interaction with them as like a voice in their head, like a voice coming to them. And there's this sort of, pseudo-scientific wonderment that I find fascinating, which is what if, the brain wasn't as connected before, like it didn't have as deep connections between the 2 hemispheres, so that a creative idea, an idea from the muses, literally felt like it was coming from outside of your left-brained, more conscious self. And, again, an emanation from, in this case, ripples in water coming through to the other side of the brain and being experienced as though it came from without, but it was really from within. I find that so fascinating because, again, I've been very technically scientific today for some reason, but it's just where my brain is going with this is like dyslexia, they think might actually be caused by too many connections between the hemispheres, so that where you're supposed to kind of slow down, like if you're doing language, the receptors on the right side of the brain and the receptors on the left side of the brain can activate together. But really, when you're understanding language, you want the left side of the brain, because that's where Broca's area is, where we actually can understand language. The right side of the brain is going to be more about like quality and tone and things that are, you know, what we would consider more artistic. I mean, this is a very, very basic breakdown, but in dyslexia, you oftentimes have competing signals. So like we'll think of two words at the same time, and we'll have these neologisms that pop out because we just can't get the one word that we're seeking for. So yeah, it is fascinating to me to wonder if that interconnection is happening more over time and the brains are becoming more harmonized, but it's creating some of these effects that, you know, don't really seem like they're helpful. But I think maybe that's where I'm headed with all of this, is that connecting a physical to a ethereal, connecting deep knowledge to eternal knowledge, connecting self to others is inherently combative to the psyche, to the consciousness, because it is two things that are so different and so diametrically opposed, and they're both colliding in you at the same time. They're both colliding into your consciousness at the same time, and it's going to get jumbled, right? It's ripples. It's going to bounce and ripple and jiggle, and not everyone's going to interpret it or experience it the same way. And then we argue about it. And I think that's where I go back to the source of waves. Mm-hmm. Don't lose sight of the deep connection when you are experiencing the high emotions and the knowledge that you gain. Realize that is your knowledge, your gainment. But part of what we've done with your cards in this reading is to remember that we are deeply connected to others, that we are part of the other is us. And don't let those two fight each other. Let those ripples interact. Remember, like the wave, let them kind of come together, and realize that sometimes you have to be the start of it.
Yeah, let it flow.
And have to create the openness for it.
Mm-hmm. Just let it flow like water.
Let's end with one of yours.
All right, let's find which deck we'll use. Number 2. So we're going back to the professions. And it will be card number... I don't believe this. Oh, okay. I thought it was number 31 again. It's number 41. Okay. It's like, oh my God, what are you doing to me? Okay, number 41. Oh.
We're still high. Like, we're high up in the deck.
Okay, well, we're still in water, actually. And water with wood, blue with green. So, stepping down one more step, because we started with, you know, water with Akasha, and then water with air, and now water with wood. I mean, anyway, I profess that I see collaboration as a practice rich with potential.
I mean, you couldn't have planned that more accurately, to start the conversation with collaboration, to have it resonating in my head this whole time, and then finally it's here again. Say the profession again.
I profess that I see collaboration as a practice rich with potential.
I mean, I feel like it's a mic drop.
Yeah. Boom. Okay, bye. See you next time.
Thanks for listening.
It's so pretty. I'm looking at the 3 cards here in front of me. Again, remember, go to YouTube and see them. But this beautiful blue with purple, and then aqua with purple, and then blue with green, and it's just a beautiful spread.
Well,
to
I mean,
look
speaking
at.
of blues,
Oh God! I mean, ooh, those are pretty.
Yeah,
Wow. This is a blue reading.
Yes. Every hue of blue.
Oh my God, it's gorgeous. Okay, so
Sounds like it should be an indie film. Every hue of blue.
Every hue of blue. I profess that I see collaboration as a practice rich with potential. So here we are again. What you perceive, what you learn, what you know, and how that is influenced by the way you make connections with other people.
Mm-hmm. And again, I'm hearing a lot of confusion floating around this, and maybe that's just me speaking, but it's naturally confusing to have deep understanding coming through emotion, skipping consciousness, and then trying to be reconciled by consciousness. I think that's kind of where it's like there's a reconciliation that's needing to take place with this reading, with this message, is to reconcile through collaboration. So don't fight the other, don't argue with the other. Try to experience their ripples and your ripples. And this is an image in my deck. The card didn't come up, but the idea of two rippling bodies interacting with each other, forming something greater, forming something where it, becomes more whole.
Mm-hmm. What a watery reading. I'm just so sad. I'm drowning. This is beautiful. It's beautiful to look at. The cards are gorgeous. Wow. We made this.
We did make this.
God, so pretty. I'm gagging. I'm gagging on my own water.
Oh my goodness. So our last free preview of the extended segment that we will be offering to those that wish to support the podcast with a monetary number. You can, of course, always support the podcast by buying our books. My book, your book, and our decks. Decks plural for Jack, because Jack has 4, because why not?
Because obviously.
We stopped at 4 because we actually have a 5th idea that may eventually come around. But we were like, no, 4 is enough.
God, just the 8 of us.
But this is a segment where we talk about how the reading personally affects us, or what we're kind of taking away personally from the reading. So my thoughts are still swirling. Do you have your takeaway already?
I see what you did with swirling. I see you with your water metaphors. I have the next meeting of the class that I debuted recently. The one that, if you've listened to other episodes, it's a class that I've been developing for a little while, and it debuted a couple of weeks ago. I was at a wedding last week, so we didn't do it, but I'm doing it again today. And this movement class takes shape only by way of a chance system. And the class has 100 possible combinations. I don't know which one's going to come up. The participants roll the dice and we find out.
Wait, it's only 100?
Well, there are 10 modules and there's a 10-sided die.
Oh, okay. This is different. Oh, sorry. Because the actual combinations of your 4 decks.
Oh no, that's
Yeah, that's a very big number.
That's a very big number. But the structure itself has 100 possibilities. Within those 100 possibilities, you have whatever that 49 times 4 plus 48 times 4 plus 47 times, whatever that is. That's the whole other situation. But the class forces me to let go, and I don't like to let go.
No, you do not.
I don't like to let go, and I have to force myself to not let go because I would strangle everything into place if I had my way. And one of my very particular choices as an artist is to look for the ways in which I can relinquish control, whether it's hiring somebody to do a particular project so that somebody else's voice can get through on it, or collaborating with you, for example, or letting the dice tell me what to do. I have to force myself to look for reasons to not be in control. And that means I'm often stressed out because I'm working against my nature. And I'm afraid of the class today. And there's no reason to be. I've done it twice. The first time, I was scared for about the first 20 minutes, and then it was like, oh, this is easy, whatever. The next day was a walk in the park. Well, it's been 2 weeks, and now for whatever reason, my brain is like, it might not work. It's like, it will work. It's worked twice. Everybody who showed up was absolutely, lovely.
Well, it's not worked just twice because you've been developing this for years. You've gone through multiple iterations of it. it's always worked.
Yeah, every
Have you
permutation
ever-
of it. Every
Have you
permutation
ever
always
had
works.
a day where you did this that it didn't work,
No.
that it didn't create something?
Well, and this is yet another permutation of how I'm making a variation on the system for the 49 haiku. It doesn't matter what I do with this stuff, it always works because I'm not the one doing it. If it was always me having to make this stuff, it wouldn't work anywhere near as well, probably. But in terms of the water that's pouring throughout this reading, from your perspective of it being this place of liquid and fluid emotion around the hips, these emotions I feel are coming from myself. I am the source of them, but they're coming out for no reason except for past trauma. And looking at the cards that came up from my decks, when I look at what I've learned and how I'm trying to use it, it is my intention to help myself and other people understand their connection to the universe, to express themselves more accurately and more authentically, to make relationships and connections with other people. So what's encouraging about the reading today is the reminder that this tension I feel about teaching the class is only coming from me. It is not coming from anywhere else. I am inventing this. And the perspective
I don't like the word invent. I'm just gonna pause you right there because that's too much ownership. I don't like the word invent. I like the word experience. I think you're experiencing it.
Okay.
I think that its cause is ripples from very, very long ago that are still reverberating into it. But I don't want you to claim it as your own. I don't think it's your own. I think it is ripples of others from your past
Okay, fair enough.
that you're experiencing now in the present.
And fair enough. And then looking at the way water functions in my system, it's coming from a place of curiosity and wisdom and knowledge and data and curiosity. And I just have to fall in love with the class. I think I'm going to be doing it every Saturday now that wedding is past. So I'll get back into a flow of it and have a more consistent reminder that it works. And that other people enjoy doing it. And they're the ones who end up creating the content. I created the structure, and then I get out of the way and watch them play and teach each other and share with each other and form friendships.
It's actually, like we talked about before, I haven't written something like substantial or very project oriented in years. And then I've been doing Dungeons and Dragons, and we've had a few sessions, and the collaboration of that is making the juices flow, but it's not totally on me to figure it all out. And I appreciate that because I can't. I was trying something recently because I've got a new stage of the quest that I'm planning, and I tried to write a story about it in my head, and I just wasn't getting there. Just wasn't happening. So the nature of your class is beautiful because it's not all on you. You are very much in collaboration with the other in order for it to be the beauty that it is.
Thank you. And I don't know what I was going to add to that. The little kitten scampered away.
Sometimes that's okay.
The kitten scampered away. Well, if it comes back, I will interject.
All right. This is a very deep reading for me because it speaks to the conflict within me, which is trying to understand eternity, but also being very still locked in the idea that there is consciousness and then there is nothing, because that's the only thing that we can scientifically understand. And I like to be scientific. I do a lot of data work in my job. I try to use data to explain and understand what's happening in a complex system. And there is no end, or sorry, there is an end. There's a definite end to that, and yet I feel a connection to the other, to the cosmic ocean, to those that have come before me. I feel that connection, and it is illogical. It does not fit with our known understanding of chemistry and brains and life itself. I experienced my mother's death, and it was very sort of final, is what it felt like. There was a termination of life, and it just sort of happened, and then the heart beat no more. And there was something about her face that it all relaxed. So the moment that she died, there was a relaxation of all the muscles, and it was like a transition. Mm-hmm. And that image has stuck with me because I could feel her in the room, even though her brain had gone. Like she had a stroke, a massive stroke. So her brain had died, all except for the central spinal column, which kept the body alive for I think 10 or 12 hours. Like I don't remember. It was a significant time and yet a blip in time.
Sure.
And I felt her presence with us while we were attending to what was essentially a machine, doing what it was designed to do, which was to keep on going. And then, to actually see death, I'd never seen that happen before. And so this reading sort of cuts to all of those confusions that I have around feeling things and gaining knowledge from feelings and having rational ideas that are in complete conflict with those at all times. And I have a deep hope that it's not nothing, even though nothing wouldn't be anything, so there wouldn't be anything to fear. It would just be nothing. And that concept is even harder to understand than eternity is. There's how do you comprehend not being when all you are is being, mm-hmm. and all you are is consciousness. So I think for me, I miss where the collaboration is on this, other than I think of my spouse and I talk about it and have conversations about it. So I'm curious. I think the piece that I'm missing for myself in this reading is where's the collaboration on this dichotomy? Because right now it's a very solo pursuit for me. It's a very solo interaction. So I'm curious where in my life the connection, the collaboration is that's maybe missing. Maybe I'm not aware of it, or it's somewhere, sometime else.
Well, keep your third eye open and you'll perceive it.
Just open
Stay
water.
Open water, float.
All right. So we have books, we have decks, we have a YouTube. We really appreciate you interacting with us. Even if you're not able to monetarily support us, we understand. We do this because we want to connect with others. We would eventually love to be able to do this and not have to do day jobs, or for Jack to be able to do his class on massive scales. And that's all something of time, hopefully will produce for both of us. But yes, you can support us through those means. My book's actually free on Kindle Unlimited. You can go experience the way that I conceive of the tarot and the chakras and how they all become a system. And if you really like it, you can go get the deck, which is very pretty, beautiful colors. And then Jack's decks, in plural, we spent months on them.
On
They
each
are
one.
on each one.
On each one.
They are very beautiful, and he has a book which is the impetus for all of this. And I know that it's kind of backwards because we do the show about the decks, but the decks really flow from the book, and the book is a beautiful artistic creation of haiku and then explaining their meanings and their interactions with each other in a very beautiful book, which you can get directly from Jack on 49haiku.com. So I encourage you to do that. It's lovely to get a signed copy. It is the best way to compensate Jack for the book, because Amazon likes to steal all the money.
All of it.
Because why not?
Because obviously.
Yes. So it's color, fully printed. You can see the colors on the edge of the book now, right?
Yes.
The colors of the chakras.
If they buy them from me directly, yes, they can get the 7x7s with the colors that bleed all the way to the edge.
The way it is intended.
The way it is intended.
So.
And if they buy it from me, they can tell me what color ink they want me to sign into. Oh,
that's true.
What color do you want me to sign it
true.
with?
What color are you feeling?
What color are you feeling?
So it's a great experience. But if they want to connect with you, Jack, where do they look? Where do they find you?
Look for 49 Haiku, the number 4, the number 9, HAIKU, 49 Haiku.
And I am available as Dean Sage Media on several platforms, Instagram primarily, Threads a little bit. I pop over to X every now and again, but usually for naughty bits. So yeah, that's where you find us. And then at Your Deck on Instagram and showyourdeck.com, you can get links to all of our books and decks there and be able to connect with us that way. Thank you, everybody.